remember your first horror movie? Maybe you were a little too young. Maybe it traumatized you. Well, today I'm going to share my first 10 horror movies. This list might not be completely accurate, but this was the best I could come up with in the recesses of my memory. The first movie I want to mention before we get into the actual list is Poltergeist. I have this memory of being in elementary school and turning on the TV and Poltergeist was playing, and it was the scene where all the chairs are stacked on top of the table. And I remember just being really captivated, but my mom walked in and promptly turned it off. I was not allowed to really watch stuff growing up. I was raised like really strict and didn't really see a lot of movies. So this is for someone who's, I guess, developmentally delayed. So most of this list is going to be from the year 2000 or later. I was not even allowed to watch PG-13 until I was at least 14. So just a little bit of context for you. Number 1, House from 1985. I was in 5th grade and this movie traumatized me. I watched it at a friend's house during a slumber party, and I was so scared that the next night I ended up like confessing everything to my mom because I was like, I can't go on in life. She didn't really help though. She just told me, see, that's why you shouldn't be watching that stuff. But I'm okay now. I've rewatched it since then. It's about this guy he's a writer and he moves into this house and they're basically monsters living in the house. 80s monsters, right? Which are kind of scary. Apparently it's kind of a horror comedy, but it was not funny to me when I was 9. Number 2, 13 Ghosts from 2001. I believe I was in 8th grade when I watched this. I had this really cool friend named Heather and I would spend the night with her and she would just teach me so much about the world and about life. So we watched 13 Ghosts. I see now that this movie is getting a little bit more appreciation, but I remember at the time it was not really culturally significant. It wasn't like a movie that stood out that anyone said was their favorite movie, but it stood out to me because I think this was probably my first movie with nudity in it. I haven't watched it since 8th grade. I should really go revisit. Number 3, Final Destination from the year 2000. This was also at my friend Heather's house. I think this movie made me a more careful person in life. The one thing that I really remember from this movie, because I haven't seen it since 8th grade, the one thing I really remember is the can that gets stuck under the brake pedal in the car. And I think this was the first one, because I don't think I've seen the others. But that kind of changed my life. And I'm sure any of you who watched this movie when you were young were similarly touched by this piece of cinema. Number 4, Jeepers Creepers from 2001. I was in 9th grade when I watched this with my friend Mary Margaret. And, I was like, I'm ready. I am ready to get into horror. I'm ready for this to be a part of me. I think I'm ready to do this. As you probably know, this is a wonderful, dusty, dirty, desolate road trip film that involves a humanoid monster who eats body parts of people. It's really gruesome, really scary, excellent. I love this movie now. But back in grade 9, when I first watched it, I was so terrified. I had to pause it. I had to ask my friends to pause it so I could take a break and kind of hyperventilate and cry a little bit. I was clearly not ready. Number 5, Dawn of the Dead 2004 remake. I watched this in maybe sophomore or junior year. It's a zombie movie. It was kind of brutal, and had a lot of rated R content, but it wasn't necessarily scary. It was more of a shocker than scary. So I felt like I could digest this and I was cool and I was watching a rated R movie with friends and I just remember feeling accomplished. And I have watched this one again since then and it's good. I like it. Number 6, The Grudge from 2004. Now, I was a little young for The Ring. I wasn't allowed to watch it, but thankfully I was old enough at the time to see The Grudge. Again, I probably would have been a sophomore or junior. This is an adaptation from a Japanese film which is, you know, it had a lot of hype around it, just like The Ring did, except this one came with a scary sound effect. Okay, I'm a little scared. Now, I can't say whether or not this film traumatized me, per se, but it did change the way I sleep to this day. Okay, I'm pretty sure there was like a scene where a creepy little boy was like behind a door. So now I always sleep, I have the door situated, like I have it half open, half closed, so I can see what's on either side of the door. And that's how I have slept ever since. Number 7, Willard from 2003. Okay, I don't remember much about it except it's about this like creepy guy and there are rats and this thing happens to a cat, and I don't remember why I saw this movie. In high school, like the only thing to do was go to the movies, and after a while like you saw everything that's currently playing, so you just see the movies you don't really want to see. So I guess that's why I saw Willard. I don't know, but I was just like, meh. I don't even know if you can call it horror, but I guess it is officially. But since I do remember what happened to the cat, I guess the movie had an impact, like a lasting impact on me, because it made me realize that people do that in movies. Movies have this sort of awful content. Number 8, When a Stranger Calls from 2006. I feel like I'm skipping over something else because 2006 I was a senior at this point, but who knows. I like the cast, I like the setting. I just recently rewatched this. I just feel like it just doesn't really wow me. It was just kind of like, okay. And we're a little bit out of order now, but number 9 is Freddy vs. Jason from 2003. I watched this at like a friend of a friend's house, so it was a social experience because, you know, you want to be cool and then you get to like watch this cool movie that you can say you've seen now. Anyway, so never knew anything about Freddy or Jason before I saw Freddy vs. Jason, so that's great. But I remember it being fun, and I was freaking out because Typo Negative's on the soundtrack, and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. I have since rewatched this, and I enjoy that movie. And number 10, Saw from 2004. I was in high school, and I don't even know how I got to see that. I don't know if I saw it in theater. I might have watched it at a friend's house, because I don't see how I would have gotten to an R-rated movie unless I snuck in, or like went with someone's older brother or something. Anyway, it was like a must-see, and it was a must-like, and there really wasn't a question about do you like Saw or not. It was like, it's Saw. I mean, of course you like it. I think I saw Saw 1, 2, and 3, ultimately, but now I haven't rewatched them in many years. I really don't care. But I do think it's pretty cool that I can say, like, Saw came out when I was in high school, and it was like all the rage, and it's what everyone was talking about. And I don't know, it's cool to really have grown up in a time where most of these movies came out. I think the 2000s are aging well. Charmingly, they're aging. Okay, and that's my top 10 list, but I do have 3 I want to throw in just as an honorable mention, which I believe came later than these 10. First is Alien vs. Predator. I loved that movie. Next is 5 Girls from 2006. This is kind of like a B movie or whatever, but someone showed it to me very shortly after I got to college, and that was just kind of one of my first, I guess, like girl power horror movies. I don't know. That was one of the first that just really stuck out to me. It's a very feminine horror movie, and I just really liked it, and I still love that movie. It's one of my favorites, and I watch it at least once a year. And the last one I wanted to mention is the Omen remake from 2006. And I just wanted to give this a brief mention because I saw it in the theater on June 6, 2006, 666, which I always thought was just super cute and super special. I don't remember a thing about the movie. Okay, and there are my first horror movies. I was a good girl. I didn't really see but 3 before I was supposed to. Most of the time I just had to rely on my friends telling me the plot lines of stories and listening to the kids talk. I wasn't even allowed to see The Sixth Sense. I've never seen that movie. Anyway, I'm not here to rant, okay? But yeah, there's a culturally developmentally delayed girl's first 10 horror movies. Let me know what your first horror movie was and how it made you feel. Some people seem to be really unaffected by their first horror movie, but hell's messed me up, man. Hope you're having a great October if you're watching this in real time, and if not, go watch something scary anyway. Bye!